चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 सारे इश्क की छाँव चल छैया छैया सारे इश्क की छाँव चल छैया पाँव जन्नत चले चल छैया छैया पाँव जन्नत चले चल छैया चल छैया 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 वो यार है जो खुशबू की तरह जिसकी जुबां उर्दू की तरह मेरी शाम रात मेरी कायनात वो यार मेरा सैया सैया चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 छैया
चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 छैया
गुलपोश कभी इतराए कहीं महके तो नजर आ जाए कहीं गुलपोश कभी इतराए कहीं महके तो नजर आ जाए कहीं तावीज बना के पहनूं उसे आयत की तरह मिल जाए कहीं तावीज बना के पहनूं उसे आयत की तरह मिल जाए कहीं गुलपोश कभी इतराए कहीं महके तो नजर आ जाए कहीं
तावीज़ बना के पहनूं से
वो यार है जो ईमान की तरह मेरा नगमा वही मेरा कलमा वही मेरा नगमा नगमा मेरा कलमा कलमा मेरा नगमा कलमा मेरा नगमा 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 मेरा कलमा कलमा मेरा नगमा नगमा मेरा कलमा कलमा यार मिसाले ओस चले पाँव के तले फिर दोस्त चले कभी डाल डाल कभी बात बात में हवा पे ढूंढूं उसके निशान सारे इश्क की छाँव चल छैया छैया सारे इश्क की छाँव चल छैया पाँव जन्नत चले चल छैया छैया पाँव जन्नत चले चल छैया चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 छैया
Thanks for tuning in. If you're wondering why my model reviews trend towards Cold War era aircraft, today's video serves as an answer. What is a Dassault Rafale, you might wonder? Glad you asked. The story begins with the French Armée de l'Air in the mid-1970s realizing two facts. One, they operated 5 different capable aircraft: the Mirage 3, the Mirage 5, the Mirage F1, the Mirage 4 strategic bomber, and Seppicat Jaguar. All of them capable aircraft, and all of them aging rapidly when compared to new and improved designs coming from the United States and the Soviet Union. To field a next-generation fighter, France partnered initially with other European nations before deciding to go their own way in 1985. The reason France left the consortium was primarily around the development of a naval variant. France needed a replacement badly for its aging force of F-8 Crusader fighter jets, while the other consortium members did not operate aircraft carriers the same way and did not prioritize development of a naval version. The European consortium, now without France, moved on to build the Eurofighter Typhoon. Meanwhile, Dassault kept going and and built their first technology demonstrator of what would later be known as the Rafale in December 1985. Since the Snecma M88 engines were not ready yet, the demonstrator used available American-developed GE 404 engines. And yes, you heard that right, the same engines as used in the FA-18 Hornet. Based on the technology demonstrator's performance, the French Air Force ordered the Rafale in 1988. Yes, folks, it's hard to believe it, but the Rafale design has been around for almost 40 years. The Rafale's performance and adoption by the French signaled the first in a series of trials that the aircraft would experience. The Rafale's toughest tests might not actually have been in the field of combat, but in the field of politics. If Clausewitz's statement that war is politics by other means should be taken at face value, then perhaps the inverse of that statement is true as well. Perhaps politics is just war by other means. The Indian Rafale story happens to really underscore that inverse statement. So the Indian Rafale story starts with a 2001 proposal from the Indian Air Force. Originally, they were impressed with the Dassault Mirage 2000, which of course predated the Rafale, but due to logistical constraints in France preventing quick delivery of the aircraft, plus international lobbying and contesting for the program, the original tender that started with simply wanting more Mirage 2000s ended in 2015 after an international competition that fielded 6 different fighter jets against the French-developed Rafale. Also, an interesting note, this was one of the instances where the Rafale competed against the Eurofighter, which was the outcome of that original European consortium so long ago. Not only was the Rafale tested in the air, its design and engineering aspects were also evaluated carefully on the ground for economic sustainment and material adoption by India's aerospace industry. This is a little discussed point, but the performance of a weapon system in battle is only one component that countries evaluate. Equally vital to a nation's adoption of an airplane is not just how capable it is in combat, but also its economic adaptability to that particular country's sustainment and resources. So many nations spend a great deal of time and money considering the sustainment of a particular weapon system. After all, what good is a home-cooked meal if you don't have plates to eat the food on? We can all probably think of a circumstance or two in life where we've come across somebody who bought more car than they could afford. And while owning a used BMW or sports car or fancy vehicle is all well and good, it's a bit harder to show off when an oil change and a brake job cost thousands and thousands of dollars. To the end of the economic status, Dassault partnered with Tata Advanced Systems to co-produce the Rafale fuselage locally in India. This agreement represents the first of its kind for the French-designed Rafale, for all the other variants are built in France. Dassault also operates the Dassault Reliance Aerospace facility in the Nagpur, India airport, which also is used to sustain the Dassault Falcon business jet, as well as the Dassault Rafale. On April 22nd, 2025, 5 armed terrorists killed 26 people in the Pahalgam tourist community. The attack prompted India's government to retaliate against the terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba. And yes, I am not the most language literate on the globe, so apologies to those of you of Uzbek and Indian as well as Pakistani descent. I am probably going to butcher a few syllables as we talk about the background on things. Pakistan claimed the Lashkar-e-Taiba group was innocent and mourned the loss of life and blamed it also on a false flag attack. Essentially what Pakistan claimed was, while they were sad that so many people were killed, they also claimed that India apparently attacked themselves. So I'll let you decide the validity of that claim or not. India retaliated by suspending a 1960s water treaty with Pakistan, and this set off a cycle of side-by-side escalation interaction until the events of Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor represented an airstrike on multiple terrorist positions. India had isolated approximately 9 terrorist positions involving multiple groups, including the Lashkar-e-Taiba group responsible for the attacks in Pahalgam. Pakistan, being Pakistan, they claimed that these sites were only housed innocent civilians and were not affiliated with terrorism or the terrorist attacks in question. These events bring us to the fate of the modeled Rafale. The Pakistan story is that this Rafale was shot down with 5 other Indian Air Force aircraft, and in this case, this particular Rafale was allegedly taken down by a Chinese-built PL-15 air-to-air missile fired from a distance of 200 kilometers. In freedom units, that's 124.3 miles. To say this story is problematic is putting the matters a bit mildly. I won't accuse Pakistan of deceptively lying, because fog of war is a real dynamic, and in truth, given the nature of electronics and warfare, it's very easy to have a inaccurate picture of a given combat zone based off of electronic signals, which of course can be manipulated on their own. Even if the social media footage of Rafale BS-001's wreckage is legitimate, and I doubt this for reasons that I'll share shortly, the background of the story suggests that that aspect may be in doubt. Again, I'll get into that a little bit later, but aircraft can crash for any number of reasons that are not associated with enemy action. An engine can fail, a fuel pump could detach, an oil line could rupture, an electronic system could fail, the fly-by-wire system might go haywire. Modern fighter jets are complex machines, and given that over 100 aircraft on both sides participated in this aerial engagement, it's completely possible that the jet, if it did actually crash, could have crashed for reasons that were unrelated to enemy action at all. But in an interesting twist on the story, recent events circa November 2025 cast doubt on Pakistan's account. India published a report that 3 Rafales that Pakistan announced as being shot down will participate in the COPE India 2025 exercise scheduled to begin later this month. As these multinational exercises involve major logistical coordination with other nations, falsifying serial numbers of aircraft is a relatively difficult process to do. And it'll be interesting to see if these quote-unquote dead Rafales come back to life on the screens and images of that exercise in the coming weeks. Uncertainties like this, such as the incomplete history of the aircraft, even extending to whether or not it still exists or not, makes it very difficult to tell stories about modern aircraft. Historical events mean that there's time for people to put together a cohesive summary of a certain war from both sides. Not only that, you also have a better understanding among the combatants because time has passed, tempers have cooled, and over time, generally, the airmen and soldiers that are involved in a war will establish contacts with each other and start to put together the pieces of the war from their own perspectives. And it is from these conversations that we can gain almost a 360-degree understanding of what happens in a given conflict. But when you have a dynamic that there are limited sources, there's not much cohesive information, and the only information that exists is propaganda published in the immediate aftermath by participating governments for reasons that benefit themselves, that doesn't give you much to work with in terms of historical context. And as much as I would love to talk about more modern aircraft more often, unfortunately, propaganda and guesswork is all I have to work with some of these stories. And again, even the very existence of this airplane is in doubt. So what else can you even, we can't even definitively say this airplane is operational. And that's pretty much building block number one when discussing the history of any particular aircraft, I think. So in a modern world where social media, deep fakes, and propaganda are everywhere, you can't even trust whether a speech you see of a politician is actually that person. It could totally be an AI deepfake video that's indistinguishable from their actual mannerisms. So in this kind of environment, that makes it tough to talk about modern stuff. So that said, I want to hear from you guys. What do you all think I should do? Should I focus on more modern aircraft and kind of take the intellectual risk of talking about the history of them? Or should I stick to some of the more established history around Cold War and earlier aircraft? Let me know what y'all think in the comments. So let's get to the model review. So the pros, the Rafale is accurately rendered and the aircraft paintwork looks really well. The loadout is fairly comprehensive. You get the mica and you get some of the mica air-to-air missiles as well as the Meteor, so you have the within visual range as well as the BVR missiles. You also get a set of French Scalp cruise missiles. These are the French analog to the British Storm Shadow cruise missiles that have made so many headlines in Ukraine. And you also have the Sagem Hammer guided munition system. You get 3 external fuel tanks as well, and a Thales Damocles targeting pod. So all things considered, this is a fairly comprehensive payload that really represents the Indian Rafale in both air-to-air and air-to-ground configurations. The small labels and smaller parts are modeled really well. I was glad to see that you even get a little look at the heat shield that's applied to the back of the airplane that looks like it's a total afterthought. HobbyMaster still included it, so good on them to put even the little small details are on there. And the cockpit and the cockpit canopy are done really nicely. So one of the cons side of the equation, the engine intakes as well as the just the general like backing of them is it's unpainted out of the box. So it looks very unfinished, and this marked a first for me. This was the first time I ever filmed a model review, stopped what I was doing and filming it, and then went and got my paintbrush to make a change, because the flat face of the intakes was extraordinarily distracting to me. Now, it may just be me. Throw a word in the comment section if I was just being anal about this, but looking at the just looking at the intakes head on and not seeing any detail or paint, just the flat plastic face just drove me crazy. So again, I stopped what I was doing, went in and repainted them, and with the black labeling, it looks a lot more realistic, at least to my eyes. Unfortunately, the actual airplane is much more complex than the intakes because Dassault shaped them to hide the compressor face, since that's one of the things that helps make an airplane easily detectable, or all those little spinning fan blades. They're great radar reflectors. So companies nowadays will try to shape their airplane intakes so that those are hidden from a forward look. It's a bit of an art and a science because you have to shape them to hide the compressor face while also keeping the engine functional. So you have to model it in such a way that the airflow still gets to the engine, but you also want to hide it as well from any radar beams that are looking ahead of the airplane too. So there is a bit of a shrouded look to it, and I think if HobbyMaster made a decal with kind of that like flat look, but then just kind of the hint of the compressor face at like the top third of the intake, if they made a decal that did that and they put it in that position inside the intake, I think it would look really nice. You wouldn't see it very easily, but it'd be there. One of the nice things I like about the caliber wings F-14 is how the compressor face of the TF-30s is modeled in the airplane. You can't see it unless you practically shine a flashlight down the intake of an F-14, but it is there, and it is rather cool. So while obviously that level of detail is a little above what HobbyMaster really aims to deliver, I think a decal showing the compressor face and kind of the hidden, like just like a semicircle showing the top of the intake with the compressor face and the rest of it being body color, I think that would look really nice. But just having a flat body color face, yuck, no good. If they fix that, I'm pretty solid with the Rafale as configured, and given what it looks like and the general quality of this release, this will not be my last Rafale that I add to this collection. So if they fix the intakes, full speed ahead. This is a really well done mold. It's a really well done paint setup. You're not going to be disappointed if you pick one of these up. And if HobbyMaster could change the F-15 to have changeable intakes, which is a much more complex action than what I'm proposing they do here, I think if they just put a little decal showing the top third of the intake with the compressor visible and the rest of it being like the same color as the rest of the model to kind of simulate the shrouding of the lower half of the compressor face, this will be bang on. They'd nail it. So I think, given the potentially controversial history of this airplane, I think it's worth adding. It's apparently the first single-seat Rafale that India brought into their Air Force, and depending on what happens in the next few weeks, we may get confirmation that, this airplane magically came back from the dead, and we'll see what interesting things the bots and AI algorithms will spew at us then. So, thank you all for tuning in and watching my reviews. Thank you for visiting the channel. And I encourage you to consider clicking a like if you like my content here, and consider subscribing if you want to A, show your support to the channel, B, be notified when I release a new video, and C, tell the algorithm to promote some actual real-world content and not something spewed out of an AI algorithm. So thank you all again for tuning in, and we will catch you in the next review.